You wake before dawn, in a room meant for one family but holding 7. The year is 1854, and you're Thomas Whitmore, 12 years old, lying on a straw mattress that hasn't been changed in 3 months. The dampness from the Thames has seeped through the crumbling brick walls again, leaving trails of black mould that look like fingers reaching across the ceiling. Your younger sister Sarah coughs beside you, that wet, rattling sound that's been getting worse since autumn. Above you, through the gaps in the floorboards, you can hear Mrs. Garrett's baby crying. It stopped crying yesterday. Nobody talks about why. The smell hits you first every morning. A mixture of human waste, rotting vegetables from the market 3 streets over, and something sweet and terrible that you've learned comes from the glue factory on Dorset Street. Your mother is already awake, hunched over the single candle, mending shirts for 2 pence a dozen. Her fingers move like spiders in the flickering light, quick and desperate. She doesn't look up when you stir. She can't afford to lose even a second of work. Outside you hear the night soil men finishing their rounds, their carts creaking under the weight of human waste they'll dump into the Thames. In 6 hours, you'll be wading through that same river, searching for copper nails, bones, anything you can sell. But first you need water. The public pump is 3 streets away, and you need to get there before the morning rush. You've heard whispers about the cholera returning. People say it travels in the fog. You don't know what cholera is exactly, but you've seen what it does. The Hendersons from 2 doors down were gone in 3 days. All 5 of them. The wooden stairs creak under your bare feet as you descend into the courtyard. 17 families share this building on Thrall Street, and already you can hear the morning symphony of misery beginning. Babies crying, couples arguing, someone retching into a bucket. The privy in the courtyard overflowed again during the night. A river of human waste runs across the cobblestones, mixing with the puddles from last night's rain. You hop from one dry spot to another, a game you've perfected over years of practice. Old Mr. Jennings sits in his doorway, even at this ungodly hour. He lost both legs in a factory accident 10 years ago, and now makes his living writing letters for those who can't write, which is almost everyone here. He nods at you, his eyes already glazed with gin. "Careful at the pump today, young Thomas," he whispers. "Mrs. Crawford from Flower Street died yesterday. Turned blue as a sailor's curse, they say. Cholera's dancing through the district again." You clutch the bucket tighter. Everyone knows cholera comes from bad air, from the miasma that rises from the Thames. But you need water. Your mother needs it for the washing she takes in. Sarah needs it for the fever that won't break. And you need it to wash the Thames mud from your skin after a day of mudlarking. The pump is your lifeline, even if it might also be your death sentence. You step out into the narrow alley, joining the stream of hollow-eyed workers heading to factories that won't stop their machines, even if a worker falls into them. The street outside is barely wide enough for 2 people to pass. The buildings lean toward each other like drunken friends, blocking out most of the sky. What little you can see is already brown with coal smoke from thousands of chimneys. This is Whitechapel at 5 in the morning, and already the city is eating itself alive. You pass the match factory where your friend Annie works. She's only 10, but her jaw has started to swell. The phosphorus in the matches, they say. Phossy jaw, they call it. The bones in her face are rotting while she's still alive. A rat the size of a cat scurries across your path, disappearing into a hole in the wall. Rats are everywhere here, growing fat on the refuse and the occasional corpse that isn't discovered for days. You've learned to sleep through their scratching in the walls, their growls, fights over territory in the ceiling. Some families eat them when times are particularly hard. Your mother hasn't gotten that desperate yet, but winter is coming, and your father hasn't sent money from the docks in 2 weeks. You turn onto Dorset Street. The worst street in London, the newspapers call it. Here, the lodging houses pack in anyone with 4pence for a bed. You see them stumbling out now. These broken people with no families, no homes. Just enough coins for 8 hours horizontal. A woman leans against the wall, her face painted white with lead powder to hide the pox scars. She smiles at you with black teeth. "Spare a penny for breakfast, love." You hurry past. You have no pennies, and even if you did, you know better than to stop on Dorset Street. The water pump on Broad Street already has a line. 20 people wait their turn, buckets and jugs in hand, everyone eyeing each other suspiciously. You recognize most of them. There's Mrs. O'Brien with her 6 surviving children, the youngest strapped to her back with a dirty shawl. There's Jack, the crossing sweeper, his broom over his shoulder, his feet wrapped in rags instead of shoes. The pump handle is slick with use, worn smooth by thousands of desperate hands. You take your place in line behind a girl about your age. Her name is Elizabeth, you think, though nobody uses names much here. She works at the Bryant and May match factory too, but she's luckier than Annie, so far. Her fingers are stained yellow from the phosphorus, and she keeps them hidden in her sleeves. "My mum died Tuesday," she says, not looking at you. "The cholera got her. Went from walking to dead in 18 hours. You don't know what to say. Death is as common as rain here. You just nod and stare at the pump. An old woman ahead starts coughing, a deep, wet sound that makes everyone step back. Consumption, probably. Tuberculosis. The White Death. It takes 1 in 4 people in these slums, eating them from the inside out. She covers her mouth with a rag that's spotted with blood. When it's finally her turn at the pump, she can barely work the handle. Jack helps her, though everyone knows touching the sick is dangerous. But that's the thing about this place. Everyone is sick with something. Your turn at the pump finally comes. The handle is cold and slightly greasy under your palm. You work it up and down, and water spurts out. Clear looking, but you know better than to trust appearances. Everything in Whitechapel lies. The bread has sawdust in it to make it heavier. The milk is watered down and mixed with chalk. Even the tea is recycled. Used leaves dried and resold to the poor. You fill your bucket, trying not to think about where this water comes from, what it might carry. As you turn to leave, you see Dr. Snow walking quickly down the street. Everyone knows Dr. Snow. He's been asking questions about the cholera, marking doors with chalk where people have died. Some say he's trying to help. Others say he's marking houses for the body collectors. He stops at the pump, pulls out a notebook, and starts writing. He looks at the handle like it's a serpent. "You there, boy," he calls to you. "How many in your building have taken ill?" You shrug. Counting the sick is like counting raindrops in a storm. The walk back is harder with the full bucket. Water sloshes over the sides, wetting your already damp coat. You pass a funeral procession. Just a simple cart, really, with 5 small coffins stacked like firewood. Children's coffins are narrower, so they stack better. The cart driver doesn't even slow down anymore. Death has become too common for ceremony. Behind the cart walks a single woman, probably the mother. Her face as empty as a blown-out candle. You look away. Your sister Sarah has the same cough those children probably had. Back in your building's courtyard, the day has properly begun its miserable symphony. Mrs. Garrett is screaming at her husband about the baby that stopped crying. He drinks to forget. She screams to remember. Their remaining 4 children huddle in the doorway like frightened mice. You've learned to walk past domestic tragedies without looking. Privacy doesn't exist in the slums. But everyone pretends not to see what happens in plain sight. You climb the stairs carefully, bucket heavy, water precious. On the second floor, you pass the room where the Irish family lived until last week. 14 of them in one room, fresh off the boat from the potato famine. The fever took half of them in 3 days. The survivors disappeared into the city's maze of misery, probably to another overcrowded room, another deadly building. The landlord, Mr. Crowley, is already showing the space to new tenants, a family with 8 children and desperation written across their faces. Your mother barely looks up when you enter, but Sarah's eyes brighten. "Tommy," she whispers, then falls into another coughing fit. The sound is worse than yesterday, wet and thick, like she's drowning from the inside. Your mother finally stops her sewing, comes over with a tin cup, and carefully ladles water from the bucket. "Just a sip, Sarah love. Make it last." Water costs nothing from the pump, but the energy to fetch it, the risk of disease, the time away from piecework. Everything has a price here. Sarah drinks slowly, her small hands shaking around the cup. Your breakfast is the same as always. A heel of yesterday's bread soaked in water to make it soft enough to chew. The baker adds sawdust and chalk to make the loaves heavier, charging by weight. Sometimes you find wood chips that even soaking won't soften. Your mother saves the better pieces for Sarah, hoping proper food might fight the sickness. You know better. You've seen too many children waste away, no matter what their mothers sacrifice. After breakfast, it's time for work. You're a mudlark, one of hundreds of children who scavenge the Thames riverbed at low tide. It's dangerous, disgusting work, but it pays. Sometimes. A good piece of copper can bring 3p. Coal that's fallen from the barges can be collected and sold back. Bones go to the glue factory. Even dog droppings have value. The tanners use them to soften leather. Nothing is too degraded to have a price in Victorian London. You kiss Sarah's forehead. It's hot with fever, and promise to bring her something sweet if you earn enough. Your mother doesn't look up from her sewing, but she murmurs, "Stay away from the deep mud, Thomas." The Brewster boy got stuck last week. Tide came in before anyone could pull him free. You nod, though you both know you'll go wherever the best findings are. Survival doesn't allow for safety. You wrap rags around your feet. Your shoes fell apart months ago, and head for the river. The Thames is calling. The ancient river that's become London's toilet. Its graveyard, and for boys like you, its treasure chest. The walk to the Thames takes you through Whitechapel Market. Even at this early hour, the place is chaos. Costermen shout about their wares. Fresh fish that stink of rot. Vegetables that were fresh perhaps a week ago. Meat of questionable origin. You've heard stories about cats and dogs disappearing, then meat pies becoming mysteriously cheaper. You don't think about it. Hunger makes philosophers of no one. A fight breaks out near the pie stand. 2 women, both drunk despite the early hour, tear at each other's hair over some perceived slight. The crowd forms a circle, cheering them on. Entertainment is rare and free here. Blood sports, dogfighting, rat baiting, bare-knuckle boxing are the only escape from the grinding daily misery. You squeeze through the crowd. You've no time for watching. The tide waits for no mudlark. You pass the casual ward of the workhouse, where the absolutely destitute can get a meal and a bed in exchange for soul-crushing labour. The people queuing outside look more dead than alive. Everyone knows the workhouse is where you go to die slowly instead of quickly. Families are separated. children taken from parents, husbands from wives. The work is picking oakum, unraveling old ropes until your fingers bleed, or breaking rocks into gravel. Your family isn't there yet, but winter is coming, and your father's money from the docks has stopped. You walk faster, trying not to see your possible future in those hollow faces. The smell of the Thames hits you before you see it. It's a stench that defies description. Human waste, dead animals, industrial chemicals, and something else. Something sweet and rotten that makes your eyes water. This is the summer of the Great Stink, though that term hasn't been coined yet. The river is basically an open sewer. Everything London doesn't want ends up here, including you and the other mudlarks, knee-deep in the filth, searching for London's discarded treasures. The tide is out, revealing the foreshore, a stretch of mud, garbage, and possibilities. Already, dozens of children are at work. You know most of them by sight, if not by name. There's Ratty Pete, who got his nickname from the bite marks covering his arms. There's Irish Mary, whose entire family died of ship fever, leaving her alone at 8 years old. There's One-Ear Jack, though nobody asks what happened to his other ear. You all work in silence mostly. Talking wastes energy, and friendship is a luxury none of you can afford. You wade in carefully. The mud is treacherous. Solid-looking surfaces can suddenly become quicksand. The Brewster boy your mother mentioned isn't the first to die this way. You've seen bodies pulled from the mud, boys who got stuck and couldn't escape the returning tide. But you push forward. Your practiced eyes scan for the telltale glint of metal, the white of bone, anything sellable. Your first find is a button, brass, military maybe. Worth a farthing if you're lucky. You pocket it and keep searching, trying to ignore the things floating past that might once have been human. 2 hours into mudlarking, your luck changes. A glint of copper catches your eye. A ship's nail worth at least a penny. Then another. You found a small spill from some repair work upstream. Working quickly before others notice, you gather 7 nails. That's a day's wage for adult labourers, achieved in minutes. But as you reach for an 8th nail, your foot slips. The mud, which seemed solid, suddenly liquefies. You sink to your knee immediately, the suction grip terrifyingly strong. Panic floods through you, but you force it down. Panic kills mudlarks faster than anything. You've seen boys thrash themselves deeper, exhausting their strength. Instead, you go still, distribute your weight, and slowly work your trapped leg. The mud makes obscene sucking sounds as you fight against it. Irish Mary looks over, sees your situation, and faces a choice every mudlark knows. Help and risk getting stuck yourself, or survive another day. She turns away. You don't blame her. Using a piece of driftwood as leverage, you finally extract your leg. Your foot comes out bare. The rag wrapping is gone, claimed by the Thames. Your foot is already cut from shells and debris, bleeding into the mud. But you're free, and you have your copper nails. You move to safer ground, where the mud is mixed with gravel. Here you find your strangest discovery of the day. A doll's head, porcelain, one eye missing. Some rich child's toy, now just Thames treasure. The rag and bone shop might give you a halfpenny for it. Everything has value to someone. The tide is turning. You can see it in the way the water moves, feel it in the mud becoming softer. Every mudlark knows the tide tables better than they know their prayers. You have maybe 30 minutes before this entire foreshore disappears under 8 feet of sewage-brown water. Time to head back, count your treasures, and hope it's enough for bread and maybe medicine for Sarah. On your way to the steps, you pass something that makes you stop. It's a dead dog, which isn't unusual, but this one has a collar, A leather collar with a brass nameplate. Duchess, it reads, with an address in Belgravia. Some rich family's pet somehow ended up here in the river of the dead. You work the collar free, trying not to think about the maggots, trying not to gag. The collar alone might fetch sixpence, the brass plate another tuppence. Death is currency here. Even a dog's death. You're almost to the steps when you hear the scream. One-Ear Jack has found something that's made even his hardened face go white. You and others gather around. It's a baby, probably thrown in the river by a desperate mother who couldn't feed it. Or maybe it died naturally and the family couldn't afford burial. The Thames is full of these small tragedies. Jack covers it with mud, a kindness the river doesn't deserve. "Nothing to see," he mutters. "Nothing the magistrate would care about anyway." You all disperse. The tide is coming, and the living must keep living. Back on solid ground, you count your findings in a quiet alley. 7 copper nails, 1 brass button, 1 doll's head, 1 dog collar with nameplate. Total potential value, maybe 15 pence if you're lucky. 10 if the rag and bone man is feeling stingy. It's more than you usually make, but is it enough? Sarah needs medicine. Your mother needs food to keep her strength for sewing. You need shoes before winter, or you'll lose toes to frostbite. You head to Petticoat Lane, where the rag and bone shops cluster like mushrooms in the dark. The proprietor, Mr. Isaacs, examines your goods with a jeweler's loupe, though everything is obviously worthless trash. It's a performance, making you feel like he's doing you a favor by buying your garbage. The doll head's cracked, he lies. The nails are corroded. 8 pence for the lot. You argue. He threatens to throw you out. You settle on 11 pence. The dance of desperation, performed daily. With your coins clutched tight, pickpockets are everywhere. You head to the chemist. The medicine for Sarah's cough costs 6 pence. It's probably just sugar water with alcohol, but hope is worth 6 pence. That leaves you 5 pence. 2 pence for a loaf of bread, 2 pence for tea and sugar, 1 penny saved for tomorrow's emergencies. You've become an accountant of poverty, every fraction of a penny calculated, every purchase a small gamble with survival. The chemist's shop feels like another world. Clean glass bottles line the shelves, filled with mysterious coloured liquids. The chemist himself, Mr. Hartwell, wears a clean white coat, an impossibility in your world, where everything turns grey within hours. He looks at you with the mixture of pity and disgust that all shopkeepers reserve for slum children. Your money is good, but you're not. "Laudanum for the child's cough?" he asks, already reaching for a brown bottle. Everyone's children are coughing in Whitechapel. Makes them sleep through the worst of it. Laudanum, opium mixed with alcohol. It stops the coughing by stopping everything, slowing the child down until they're barely breathing. You've seen what happens to laudanum children. They stop crying, yes, but they also stop living, becoming little ghosts before they become actual ghosts. "Just sugar water and herbs," you say. "Something gentle." He shrugs, mixes something that smells of peppermint, and charges you the same 6 pence. On your way home, you pass a street photographer with his big wooden camera. He's taking pictures of the slums, he says, to show the rich how the poor live. He offers you a penny to stand still and look miserable. You don't have to act. The penny joins your carefully hoarded coins. Later, you'll learn your image ends up in newspapers, with captions like, "The Forgotten Children of London." But forgotten by whom, you wonder? God? The Queen? Or just everyone who matters? The bread shop is your next stop. The baker, Mrs. Morrison, has arms like ham hocks from kneading dough since 4 in the morning. She knows every trick. Yesterday's bread sold as fresh, sawdust and chalk added for weight. mice droppings baked in and called raisins. But she also knows hunger. Sometimes, when no one's looking, she slips an extra roll into your bag. Today isn't one of those days. You buy the cheapest loaf. Yesterday's. Hard as a brick. Soften it in water, she suggests, as if you have water to spare. The tea seller next door offers pure Chinese tea, which everyone knows is floor sweepings and used leaves re-dried. But hot water with any flavour is better than cold water with none, especially when that water might carry cholera. You buy the smallest packet, watching your precious pennies disappear. Walking home, you see a crowd gathered around a street preacher. He's shouting about how poverty is God's test, how suffering purifies the soul. Easy words from someone with clean clothes and all his teeth. Old Mrs. Patterson spits at his feet. "Tell that to my 3 dead babies," she croaks. The preacher keeps preaching. The crowd disperses. Everyone has suffering of their own, without listening to someone else explain why it's good for them. You hurry past. Sarah needs her medicine, and the afternoon is dying like everything else in Whitechapel. Your building's courtyard is more crowded than this morning. Word has spread that the fever has taken 2 more children in the night. Their mother sits in the corner, keening, a low, animal sound that raises the hair on your neck. The other women give her space but no comfort. Comfort is expensive, and grief is contagious. You've learned to walk past tragedy like it's furniture. Climbing the stairs, you hear your father's voice and freeze. He's back from the docks, but the tone is wrong. Not the cheerful boom of a man with wages, but the broken whisper of defeat. You peek through the door crack. His left hand is wrapped in bloody rags. Industrial accident, probably. The docks are hungry for fingers, hands, lives. A one-handed docker is a useless docker. Your family's main income source just ended with whatever crushed his hand. Your mother isn't crying. She's past crying. She just nods and goes back to her sewing. Sarah coughs from her corner, and your father flinches at the sound. He knows what that cough means, how much medicine costs, how much medicine won't help. You enter quietly, hand him the medicine and bread like offerings to a fallen god. He looks at you, with eyes that have seen too much. "Good boy, Tommy," he whispers. "Good boy." But you see him calculating, same as you. 1 working child, 2 sick adults, 1 dying child. The arithmetic of poverty never adds up to survival. That night, dinner is bread soaked in tea, flavoured with imagination. Your mother tells stories of her childhood in the countryside, before the factories called everyone to London with promises of work and wages. Green fields, she says, clean air, water you could drink without boiling. Sarah listens with fever-bright eyes, coughing less thanks to the medicine. Your father stares at his ruined hand, mapping a future that grows darker by the hour. After dinner, you help your mother with the piecework. Your fingers aren't as quick as hers, but every stitch counts. She's making matchboxes now, a halfpenny for 144. The paste makes your eyes water and your head spin. Bryant and May factory supplies the materials, but not the workspace. So thousands of families turn their single rooms into miniature factories. The same phosphorus that's rotting Annie's jaw fills your lungs with every breath. Outside, London's night sounds begin. Drunken singing from the pub, screaming from somewhere above, the crash of breaking glass, a baby crying, then suddenly stopping. Your father speaks into the darkness. "I heard they're taking children at the ragged school. Food and letters for free. Your mother's needle pauses. The ragged schools are for the poorest of the poor, at admission that you've fallen as far as you can. Not yet, she whispers. Not yet. But you all know, not yet is getting closer. Sleep comes hard in the slums. The walls are thin as paper, and every sound carries. Above, someone's moving furniture or fighting. Hard to tell. Next door, the new baby hasn't stopped crying for 3 hours. Your mother says it's hungry. Hungry babies cry until they don't have strength to cry anymore. Then they just stop, like the Garrett baby upstairs. Sarah's breathing is loud in the darkness, each breath a wet struggle. The medicine helped for a few hours, but now the cough is back, worse than before. Your father hasn't moved from his corner, his ruined hand held against his chest like a broken bird. You hear him whispering prayers, but what God listens to prayers from Whitechapel? If he does, he must enjoy the sound of suffering. You drift in and out of sleep, dreaming of the Thames, of being stuck in the mud while the tide rises. In your dream, all the other mudlarks turn away, and the water is full of floating babies, all of them crying. You wake to find it's not a dream. A baby really is crying, somewhere close. But then it stops, mid-wail, like someone blew out a candle. The silence that follows is worse than the crying. You pull your thin blanket tighter and try not to think about what that silence means. Morning comes like a disease, spreading grey light through the cracked window. Sarah didn't make it through the night. You know before you even look. The terrible breathing has stopped, replaced by your mother's silent shaking. Death in the slums doesn't announce itself. It just arrives, takes what it wants, and leaves you to clean up. Your father tries to stand but stumbles. Infection has set into his hand. Red streaks run up his arm like rivers on a map. Blood poisoning. He'll be dead within days without treatment, and treatment costs more than your family has ever seen. Your mother doesn't look at him. She's washing Sarah's face with the last of yesterday's water, making her presentable for the afterlife, as if God cares whether the dead are clean. The undertaker won't come for just one child. They wait until there are enough bodies to make it worth their while. So Sarah will stay with you for now, wrapped in your mother's shawl, looking like she's sleeping if you don't look too close. The neighbours know but say nothing. Death is private here, even when privacy is impossible. Mrs. O'Brien brings a stub of candle, her only gesture of sympathy she can afford. Your mother takes it without words. Words are for the living, and part of your mother just died with Sarah. There's no money for a proper burial. Sarah will go in a pauper's grave, stacked with other unnamed dead like cordwood. But first, you need the burial certificate. The registrar's office is a 2-mile walk, and your father can't make it. His fever has started, and he mumbles about ships and tides that only exist in his burning mind. So you go alone, Sarah's death like a stone in your stomach. The streets are full of ordinary horror. A horse has collapsed in its traces, and the driver beats it with a stick, trying to force it back to life. A woman sits on the curb, selling her hair to the wig-maker's assistant for enough coins to feed her remaining children. 2 boys fight over a crust of bread dropped by a baker's cart. This is London, the greatest city in the empire, where humans have become less valuable than the machines they serve. At the registrar's office, you wait 3 hours. Death is a bureaucracy here. Finally, a bored clerk takes your information. Name? Age? Cause of death? You don't know what killed Sarah. The cough, the fever, the hunger, the damp, Whitechapel itself. Consumption, the clerk decides, because that's what they always write. He stamps a paper that makes Sarah's death official. Next, he calls before you've even turned away. Death is an assembly line, and your sister was just another product.
The burial is at dawn the next day.
They do pauper funerals early, before the paying customers arrive. The cemetery is already full of fog, and the diggers are drunk to handle the smell. The pit is 20 feet deep, half full of coffins so cheap they're really just boxes. Sarah's goes on top, one of 5 being buried this morning. No words are said. The priest charges for prayers, and you have no money for God's attention. Your mother doesn't cry. She's saving her strength for your father, who didn't wake up this morning. The infection has spread to his shoulder, and he burns with fever. You sold your coat the medicine, but the chemist's potions can't fight blood poisoning. He has maybe 2 days, maybe less. Then it will be another trip to the registrar, another pauper's funeral, another subtraction from your family's impossible arithmetic. Walking home from the cemetery, you pass a construction site where they're building new houses. Not for people like you. These are for the middle class, with proper drains and windows that close. The foundation is being dug by Irish labourers, and you recognise one, Patrick from your building, who lost his wife last month. He nods at you, understanding in his eyes. Everyone here has buried someone. The city is built on bones, and every foundation contains the dreams of the dead. You think of Sarah, already disappearing under dirt and other coffins, becoming part of London's terrible soil. Your father dies on a Tuesday. The fever broke Monday night, and for a moment you all thought he might recover. But broken fevers in the slums just mean the body has given up fighting. He said your name once, tried to touch your face with his good hand, then went quiet. Your mother closed his eyes with pennies you couldn't spare, but even death has its rituals. Now you're the man of the house at 12 years old. The arithmetic is simpler now, but more impossible. 1 child working, 1 woman sewing, against rent, food, coal for winter. Your mother takes in more piecework, her fingers moving so fast they blur, but matchboxes and shirt mending won't pay for survival. You both know what's coming, but don't say it. The workhouse looms like a guillotine, waiting to separate what's left of your family. That afternoon, while your mother negotiates with the undertaker, begging, really, for 1 more day before they take your father, you go back to the Thames. The mudlarking has to continue. Grief is a luxury for those with savings. You wade into the familiar stench, but your luck has turned. Hours of searching yield only 3 bent nails and a button missing its back. Even the river seems to know you're cursed. One of the other mudlarks, Ratty Pete, shares half a pie he found floating. It tastes of river water and desperation, but you eat it. Pride died with your sister. The landlord, Mr. Crowley, arrives before your father's body is cold. He's a mountain of a man who sweats even in winter, counting his properties on fingers like sausages. "Rent's due Friday," he wheezes, though he knows about your father, about Sarah. The walls are thin. Everyone's tragedy is public knowledge. "No payment, you're out. Already got 3 families wanting this room. Your mother promises payment she can't make." He leaves, but his threat lingers like the smell of the Thames. Your mother makes a decision that night. She'll go to the match factory, Bryant and May, where they're always hiring. The phosphorus that rots your jaw pays better than piecework. "Just for a few months," she says, but you both know better. Annie from down the street started with just a few months too. Now half her face is gone, eaten away by phossy jaw, the bone glowing green in the dark. But 6p a day is 6p a day, and winter is coming. You try to sleep, but can't stop thinking about the choices ahead. The ragged school would feed you, maybe teach you letters, but it marks you as the lowest of the low. The workhouse would separate you from your mother forever. Running away means joining the armies of street children who sleep in doorways and die before they reach 15. Every option leads to a different kind of death. You're playing chess with poverty, and poverty never loses. Your mother starts at the match factory on Wednesday. She leaves before dawn, her hair tied back, her hands already shaking with fear of what's to come. You know the stories. The phosphorus gets into everything. Your lungs, your blood, your bones. Workers' teeth fall out first, then their jaws rot from the inside. Some say you can see the bones glowing through the skin in the dark. But the factory pays daily, and daily payment means daily bread. Alone in the room with your father's body, the undertaker still hasn't come. You count your remaining possessions. 2 blankets, 1 pot, 3 plates. Your mother's Sunday dress that hasn't seen Sunday in years. Everything else has been sold or pawned. The pawnbroker, Mr. Goldman, knows every family's descent into destitution by the items they bring. First the good clothes, then the tools, then the wedding rings. Finally, the blankets off the beds. You're at the blanket stage. A knock at the door makes your heart race, but it's not the undertaker or the landlord. It's Dr. Snow again, the one you saw at the water pump. He's mapping deaths, he says, trying to understand the cholera. He asks about Sarah, about the water you drink, about the pump you use. His theory is mad, that cholera comes from water, not bad air. Everyone knows disease comes from miasma, the poisonous fog that rises from filth. But he marks his map carefully, each death a dot, building a picture of catastrophe. That pump, he mutters. Something about that pump. He leaves you a shilling for your trouble. It's the most money you've held in weeks. Your father's burial is even worse than Sarah's. The undertaker's men handle the body like luggage, tossing it onto a cart already laden with corpses. Your mother isn't there. She can't miss work or she'll be replaced immediately. So you follow alone, a 12-year-old chief mourner in a funeral procession of strangers. The cemetery pit is fuller now. They're running out of room, stacking bodies like they're trying to build a tower to heaven with the dead. After the burial, you don't go home. The empty room holds too many ghosts. Instead, you wander through Spitalfields Market, where the silk weavers have set up stalls. These were prosperous people once, skilled craftsmen. But the mills up north have destroyed their trade. Now they sell their looms for firewood and their silk for rags. Progress, they call it. The future. But the future looks like starvation for anyone whose hands can be replaced by a machine. You find yourself at the docks where your father worked. The forest of masts stretches to the horizon. Ships from every corner of the empire. The dock workers are unloading sugar from the West Indies, cotton from America, tea from China. All the wealth of the world passes through here, but none of it stops in Whitechapel. You watch the men work, their movements mechanical, their faces blank. One of them has a bandaged hand like your father had. Soon he'll be dead too, replaced before his body is cold. The docks eat men like the Thames eats children. Your mother comes home that first night from the match factory with yellow dust in her hair. The phosphorus. It glows faintly in the darkness like a sick aurora. She tries to wash it out with the little water you have, but it clings to everything. Her hands shake as she counts her wages. 6pence, minus a penny for materials, minus a half penny for workspace, minus a farthing for reasons never explained. 3 pence and 3 farthings for a day of poisoning herself. She doesn't eat dinner. Says the phosphorus kills appetite. You've seen match girls before, getting thinner while their jaws get thicker, until they look like skeleton scarecrows. You make her tea with extra sugar. Sugar stolen from the docks by boys you know, sold for a fraction of its worth. Everything in Whitechapel is stolen from somewhere, recycled through the endless economy of poverty. Your mother sips the tea and sighs, tries to smile. Just a few months, Tommy. Just until we're settled. That night you dream of phosphorus. In your dream, everyone in Whitechapel glows green in the dark, their bones visible through their skin like human lanterns. The Thames runs green too, and the mudlarks pull green coins from green mud. You wake to find your mother sitting by the window, her profile faintly luminescent from the phosphorus dust. She's crying silently, the tears leaving trails through the poison on her cheeks. You pretend to sleep. Some grief is too private for even a single room. A week passes. The phosphorus is winning. Your mother's appetite is completely gone, and her teeth have started to ache. Just the cold, she says, but you both know better. Annie from down the street lost her first tooth yesterday. It came out black, the root eaten away. The factory doesn't care. There are always more desperate women to replace the dying ones. The match factory is a monster that feeds on poverty and excretes light for the wealthy. You've increased your mudlarking hours, starting before dawn, working until the last possible moment before the tide turns. Your feet have become leather from the constant exposure, cut and scarred, but tough as any shoe. Today you find something unusual, a pocket watch, gold-plated, still ticking somehow. It must have fallen from some gentleman's pocket recently. This could fetch enough to pay rent, maybe even get medicine for your mother's teeth. But Ratty Pete sees you find it. His eyes go hard with desperate calculation. In the slums, friendship is a luxury, and betrayal is survival. You see him moving closer, and you know what's coming. The strong take from the weak here, just like everywhere. But you're faster. You run, the watch clutched in your fist, Pete cursing behind you. You know these streets like veins in your arm. You lose him in the maze of alleys around Dorset Street, but you know he'll remember. Everyone remembers wealth in Whitechapel, no matter how small. The pawnbroker's shop is a museum of desperation. Wedding rings by the hundred, family Bibles, tools that once meant livelihood, children's toys that once meant joy. Mr. Goldman examines your watch with the care of a surgeon. He knows it's stolen. Everything here is stolen from somewhere, even if it's just stolen from a better past. 3 shillings, he offers. It's worth 10 times that, but you have no power here. 3 shillings is still a fortune. 2 weeks' rent, medicine, food. You take the money and head straight to the chemist. Not for laudanum this time, but for something stronger. Your mother needs carbolic acid for her mouth, to kill the phosphorus rot before it spreads. The chemist warns you it's dangerous, that it burns healthy tissue too. But what in Whitechapel isn't dangerous? Living is dangerous. Breathing is dangerous. Being poor is the most dangerous thing of all. When you get home, your mother is already back from the factory. She's been let go. Her production slowed when the jaw pain started, and slow workers are worthless workers. She sits in the corner, holding her face, a swelling visible along her jawline. The phosphorus has gotten into the bone. Fossy jaw, they call it. Like giving it a cheerful nickname makes it less horrifying. You hand her the carbolic acid. She looks at the bottle, then at you, understanding the unspoken truth. This might kill the rot, or it might kill her. But doing nothing definitely will. The carbolic acid is agony. Your mother rinses her mouth with it diluted in water, and even that makes her scream into a folded blanket to muffle the sound. The smell fills the room. Sharp, medical, wrong. But after 3 days, the swelling goes down slightly. The phosphorus might be retreating, or it might just be gathering strength for a final assault. Hope in the slums is always temporary. A brief pause between disasters. The rent is paid with the watch money, buying you another week in your single room. Mr. Crowley seems disappointed you had the money. He profits more from evictions. He can charge the next family cleaning fees and deposit that he'll never return. He eyes your mother's condition with the calculation of a vulture. Sick women can't work. Families without workers can't pay. He's already planning your replacement. You go back to mudlarking, but Ratty Pete has spread the word about the watch. The other mudlarks avoid you now, suspicious that you're holding out on them, that you found some secret treasure spot. Isolation is dangerous on the river. When someone gets stuck in the mud, they need others to pull them out. But trust is dead, murdered by 3 shillings. You work alone now, staying in the safer but less profitable areas. Even the Thames has a social hierarchy, and you've just been demoted. October arrives with its particular cruelties. The fog gets thicker, mixing with coal smoke, until noon looks like twilight. The cold seeps through walls, through clothes, through skin, settling in your bones like an unwelcome tenant. Coal costs money you don't have, so you and your mother huddle together under both blankets, sharing what little warmth your underfed bodies can generate. Your mother can't work anywhere now. The phosphorus damage is visible, a dark line along her jaw where the bone is dying. No factory will take her. No shop will let her serve customers. She tries to take in washing, but even that requires strength she doesn't have. You watch her grow thinner, weaker, older. She's 28 years old and looks 50. Whitechapel ages people in dog years. 7 for every 1 survived. The workhouse visitor comes on a Tuesday. Mrs. Blackstone, she calls herself, though everyone knows her as the Crow, for her black dress and her talent for appearing wherever death and destitution gather. She speaks softly about the workhouse's opportunities, regular meals, medical attention, work for those who can. She doesn't mention the separation of families, the prison-like conditions, the fact that most who enter never leave. Your mother listens politely, then shows her the door. "Not yet," she whispers after the Crow leaves. But yet is getting closer every day. The eviction notice comes on a Friday. Mr. Crowley doesn't even deliver it himself, just sends a boy to nail it to your door. 3 days to pay or get out. Your mother tears it down, but everyone has already seen. In Whitechapel, eviction notices are public entertainment, reminders that however bad your situation, someone always has it worse. The neighbours avoid your eyes now. Poverty might be contagious, but homelessness definitely is. You try everything. The rag and bone man has nothing for you. Winter means everyone is selling, no one is buying. The mudlarking yields only enough for bread. You even go to the Christian mission, swallowing pride like broken glass. But they want you to pray first, sing hymns, listen to sermons about how God loves the poor. If God loves the poor, you think, he has a funny way of showing it. You take their soup, thin as water, and their bread, hard as hope, but it won't pay rent. Your mother makes her decision that night. She'll go to the workhouse alone, tell them you've died, that she has no family. That way you stay free. Avoid the workhouse orphanage where children are trained for service or death, whichever comes first. "You're strong, Tommy," she says, her ruined jaw making the words slur. "Stronger than this place. Find work. Survive. Remember us." She means remember the family you were before Whitechapel ate you alive. But you're 12, and 12-year-olds don't survive alone in London. She knows this. You know this. But beautiful lies are all you have left.
The last night in your room is spent pretending. Pretending tomorrow won't come. Pretending your mother's jaw isn't rotting. Pretending you're not about to become one of London's street children. The ones who sleep in doorways and disappear without anyone noticing. Your mother tells you stories about your father when he was young, before the docks broke him. He wanted to be a carpenter, she says. Make things, instead of just loading them. Dreams are free in the dark. You don't sleep, neither does she. You both know this is goodbye, but saying it would make it real. Instead, you memorize each other's faces in the candlelight. Her green eyes, the same as Sarah's were. The way she tilts her head when thinking. The careful way she moves now, like her bones are made of glass. You want to remember her before the phosphorus, before the grief. But those memories feel like they belong to different people in a different world. Dawn comes like an executioner, grey and merciless. Your mother puts on her Sunday dress, the one saved for special occasions that never came. She looks almost respectable until you see her jaw, swollen and discoloured. Punishment for the crime of needing work. She kisses your forehead, whispering tells you to be strong, be smart, be good. Then she walks out, and you're alone. The room already feels like a tomb. You gather your few possessions, a knife, a blanket, the last pennies from yesterday's mudlarking, and prepare to join London's army of forgotten children. The streets are different when you're homeless. Every doorway is a potential bed, every policeman a threat, every other street child competition for resources that barely exist. You learn quickly, sleep light, wake early, keep moving. Standing still marks you as weak, and the weak don't last long. Your first night, you try sleeping in an alley off Commercial Street. By morning, your blanket is gone, stolen while you slept. You still have the knife, hidden in your boot. It's not much, but it's sharp, and sharp things have value. You try mudlarking, but without a room to return to, everything is harder. Where do you store what you find? How do you clean the Thames filth from your skin? Other mudlarks notice you're sleeping rough. Some pity you. Most avoid you. Homelessness might be contagious. Ratty Pete sees you and laughs. Told you that watch would bring bad luck, he says. You want to fight him, but fighting wastes energy, and energy is survival. The other street children watch you with calculating eyes. You're new, which means you don't know the rules yet. Don't sleep in Irish Mike's doorway. Don't beg near the church on Sundays. Don't go near the old warehouse on Wentworth Street. Children go in there and don't come out, though nobody says why. You learn by watching, by making mistakes that could kill you. London streets are a school where failure means death, and the curriculum is written in scars. Hunger becomes your constant companion. Not the hunger you knew in the tenement, where at least there was bread and tea. This is different. A hollow ache that makes you dizzy, makes you see things that aren't there. You eat what you find. Discarded apple cores, bread crusts dropped by careless pedestrians, sometimes things you don't want to identify. Your stomach stops complaining after a while, shrinking to match your new reality. You discover the best begging spots through trial and error. Outside theatres, catching people in good moods. Near churches, where guilt loosens purse strings. But never near pubs. Drunk men kick more often than they give coins. You perfect the art of looking pitiful but not threatening. sick but not contagious. It's a performance, and your life depends on the reviews. Some days you make enough for bread. Some days you don't. One evening you're caught stealing a meat pie from a vendor. The constable is young, maybe remembering his own hungry childhood. Instead of arresting you, he drags you to the Bernardo's home, one of the new institutions for street children. It looks like salvation. Warm beds, regular meals, even schooling. But you see the other children's faces, empty as cleared plates. They're being trained for service, for factories, for lives of different but equal misery. You run that night, back to the streets. Better to die free than live in a cage, even a comfortable one.
Winter arrives early, and with it, death becomes visible on every corner. Frozen bodies in doorways, covered with frost like terrible sculptures. The Thames freezes at the edges, making mudlarking impossible. The workhouses overflow, turning people away. The lucky die quick from cold. The unlucky linger, losing fingers and toes to frostbite, becoming living reminders that London eats its poor one piece at a time. You find a community of sorts under London Bridge. Street children cluster here for warmth, sharing information like currency. Big Tom, who's 15 and ancient in street terms, runs things with fair brutality. Share what you find and you can stay. Hold back and you're out in the cold, literally. It's not friendship, it's survival symbiosis. You learn new skills, picking pockets, though your conscience fights you, running cons on tourists, finding warm spots where steam vents from underground. News filters through the street network. Cholera has returned with vengeance. Dr. Snow was right about the water pump. They removed the handle, and deaths dropped. But nobody cares about being right when they're dead. You wonder about your mother in the workhouse, if she survived the phosphorus poisoning, if she thinks you're dead. You walk past the workhouse once, but the walls are high, the windows barred. It looks like a prison because it is one. Poverty is the crime, and the sentence is life. Christmas comes to London, but not to Whitechapel. The rich celebrate with goose and pudding, while you gnaw on a bone found behind a restaurant. The Salvation Army sets up a soup kitchen, and you queue for 3 hours in the snow for a bowl of something that might have been vegetables once. They make you sing carols first, praising a God who seems to have forgotten your postal code. God bless us, everyone, you mutter, remembering Tiny Tim. But Tiny Tim had a family. You have only the cold. Big Tom doesn't make it to New Year. Consumption finally wins its patient battle. You watch him cough blood into the snow, turning it red like spilled wine. He dies holding a photograph of someone. Mother, sister, someone who loved him before the streets claimed him. The other children divide his possessions within minutes. A wool scarf, boots with only small holes, 3 shillings he'd hidden. You take nothing. The dead deserve some dignity, even here. His death promotes you in the bridge hierarchy. You're a veteran now. 3 months on the streets, still breathing. New children arrive daily, fresh runaways or newly orphaned, and you see your former self in their terrified eyes. You try to help them the way Big Tom helped you. Practical advice, not kindness. Kindness is expensive. Show them the safe doorways, the generous churches, the policemen to avoid. But don't get attached. Everyone dies here. It's just a matter of when. January 1855 brings the worst freeze in memory. The Thames turns solid enough to walk on, and a frost fair springs up on the ice. Vendors sell gingerbread and gin, while skaters glide past. It's magical if you have money, deadly if you don't. The cold kills quietly, numbing you to sleep that you never wake from. Every morning, the body collectors find new frozen sculptures that were people the night before. You survive by breaking into a closed factory at night. It's illegal, punishable by transportation to Australia if caught, but Australian heat sounds better than London cold. The factory made matches once. You can still smell the phosphorus, see the yellow stains on the workbenches. You think of your mother, wonder if her jaw finally rotted through. The building is haunted by the ghosts of poisoned workers, but ghosts are better company than the living sometimes. During the days you work, not mudlarking, the river is frozen. Instead, you join the pure finders, people who collect dog droppings to sell to tanners. It's the lowest work possible, below even sewer hunting, but it pays. You follow rich people's dogs through Mayfair, scooping up their waste with your bare hands, saving it in a bucket you stole. The rich ladies hold perfumed handkerchiefs to their noses when you pass. You want to tell them their gloves are made soft with the very shit they're avoiding, but silence is safer.
February brings a thaw, and with it, new horrors.
The frozen corpses hidden under snow emerge like terrible flowers. The smell is indescribable. Rats, grown fat and fearless during winter, swarm the streets in biblical proportions. They've been feeding on the dead all winter, and now they're bold enough to attack the living. You wake one night to find one chewing on your foot, having gnawed through your boot. The bite festers immediately. Everything festers in Whitechapel. The wound forces you to beg rather than work. Infection is setting in. Red lines creeping up your leg like your father's arm before he died. You know what this means. But knowing and accepting are different things. A street doctor, really just a drunk medical student who was expelled, offers to cut off your foot for $1. You don't have $1, and you'd rather die whole than live in pieces. The fever starts 2 days later. In your delirium, you see your family. Sarah coughing, your father's crushed hand, your mother's rotting jaw. They're calling you to join them, and part of you wants to go. Death would be warm, wouldn't it? Warmer than London's streets. But stubbornness, that Whitmore trait that's both curse and blessing, keeps you fighting. You drag yourself to a church, collapse in the doorway. If you're going to die, at least die where someone might say words over your body. God might not care about Whitechapel, but maybe he'll notice a child dying on his doorstep. You don't die. The church minister, younger than most and still believing he can save the world, finds you at dawn. He carries you inside, cleans your wound with carbolic acid that makes you scream like your mother did. The fever breaks after 3 days of you swimming in and out of consciousness. He tells you God saved you, but you know it was the carbolic acid and luck. God doesn't visit Whitechapel, no matter what ministers say. Minister Davidson is different from the mission Christians. He doesn't demand prayers for soup or hymns for help. He's from money but chose the slums, which makes him either saintly or insane. He offers you work, cleaning the church, helping with the poor kitchen, teaching younger street children their letters, which he teaches you first. It's not charity, he insists. It's employment. The distinction matters to your pride, even though pride is a luxury you can't afford. For 2 weeks you have something close to stability, a corner of the vestry to sleep in, 2 meals a day, work that doesn't involve sewage or corpses. You even start to imagine a future. Maybe you could become a clerk, or a teacher, or something other than a statistic in London's mortality tables. But Whitechapel doesn't allow happy endings. Minister Davidson is attacked one night, robbed and beaten by men who see his kindness as weakness. He survives, but his family pulls him back to safety. His replacement is old school, demanding prayer for everything.
You're back on the streets within days.
March brings spring to London, but seasons mean little in the slums. The flowers that bloom in Hyde Park don't grow in Whitechapel soil, poisoned by generations of human waste and industrial runoff. But spring means construction work, and construction means jobs for children small enough to fit in tight spaces, disposable enough that no one cares if they don't come out. You find work on the new sewer system they're building. After the Great Stink and the cholera, Parliament finally agreed London needs proper sewers. The irony isn't lost on you. They're building sewers to carry away the shit that killed your family, but it's too late for the dead. You work as a canary, sent into newly dug tunnels to check for gas pockets. If you come out alive, it's safe. If you don't, they dig somewhere else. You're literally worth less than a bird. The work is beyond dangerous. Tunnel collapses are common. Gas pockets kill instantly. The older workers take bets on which child will die first. But it pays 2 shillings a day, wealth beyond imagination. You save every penny, sleeping in the tunnel at night to avoid rent, eating scraps from other workers' meals. You have a plan now. Save enough to get out of London. Find work in the countryside where your mother dreamed of. £20 and you're free. At 2 shillings a day, minus food, that's only impossible. But impossible is better than nothing. You last 3 weeks in the tunnels before your luck runs out. A gas pocket, smaller than the others. Not enough to kill, but enough to damage. You wake up above ground, coughing blood, your lungs feeling like they're full of broken glass. The foreman fires you immediately. Damaged workers are useless workers. You're saved money. £3, 4 shillings. Not enough for escape. More than enough for others to kill you for. Back on the streets, but weaker now. The gas damaged something inside you. You can't run like before, can't work as long. You're becoming what you've always feared, one of the walking dead, the living ghosts that haunt Whitechapel until they become actual ghosts. You see it in others' eyes, the recognition that you're dying slowly. Even the other street children avoid you. Death might be contagious. You use some precious money for a doctor, a real one, not the drunk students. He listens to your chest, frowning. Frowns. Tells you what you already know. Damage to the lungs, probably permanent. Sea air might help, he suggests, as if you could afford to vacation in Brighton. Avoid strenuous activity, as if survival isn't strenuous. He charges you £1 shilling for telling you you're dying. Medical care in London is just expensive fortune-telling. April 1855. You've survived winter, but barely. Your 13th birthday passes unmarked. Birthdays are for people with futures. Your cough is constant now, a wet rattle that marks you as dying. But London is full of the dying. You're just part of the landscape. You find a spot in Bunhill Fields Cemetery, sleeping among the graves of dissenters and nonconformists. Appropriate, since poverty is its own form of dissent against the lie that England cares for all its people. One night, sheltering from rain in a mausoleum, you meet an old woman. She's been living in cemeteries for years, she says, because the dead are better neighbours than the living. She shares her food, bread stolen from funeral offerings, and tells you about the workhouse uprising last week. The poor inside finally had enough, rioted, were crushed by police. Your mother might have been among them, or she might be dead. The not knowing is worse than knowing would be. The old woman dies that night, quietly, without fuss. You find her at dawn, looking peaceful for the first time. You should report it, but to whom? Who counts the dead among the already forgotten? You close her eyes,
Take her blanket, she won't need it now, and leave her for the gravediggers to find. Another unmarked death in a city built on unmarked graves. But she lived free, died free. There are worse endings. The cough gets worse. Blood comes regularly now, bright red against the grey of everything else. You know what this means. Consumption, tuberculosis, the White Death. The same disease that took a quarter of Whitechapel. You're becoming a statistic you once counted. The irony tastes like copper pennies and defeat. But you keep moving, because stillness means death. You beg outside hospitals now, where guilty medical students sometimes drop coins. You tell them you're saving for medicine, but really you're saving for a proper burial. Not a pauper's grave like Sarah and your father. Something with a stone, with a name. Thomas Whitmore. Proof you existed. That Whitechapel didn't erase you completely. One evening, coughing fit drops you outside a familiar building. The match factory where your mother worked, where the phosphorus began eating her jaw. It's still running, still glowing green at night, still feeding on desperate women. You see girls going in for the night shift, some already showing the telltale jaw swelling. The factory is a monster that never stops eating. You want to warn them, but what would you say? That death comes either way, fast from phosphorus or slow from starvation. They already know. May arrives with unusual warmth, and with it, a strange clarity. You know you're dying. Maybe days, maybe weeks, but not long. The knowledge is almost peaceful. No more fighting, no more hunger, no more watching London devour its children. You spend your remaining coins on paper and pencil from a street vendor. You want to leave something behind, some record that you lived. You write your story in simple words. The mudlarking, Sarah's cough, your father's crushed hand, your mother's rotting jaw. Not for sympathy, but for truth. Someone should know what happened here, in the richest city in the world, where children died of poverty, while wealth flowed past like the Thames. You leave the pages with the minister at the church where Davidson once worked. Maybe someone will read them, maybe not, but they exist, like you existed. Your last walk takes you to the Thames at low tide. The mudlarks are out, new faces replacing the dead. You see yourself in them, that desperate hope that today might be different, that treasure might be waiting in the mud. One boy, maybe 8, is stuck. The others are too far away to help. You wade in, your diseased lungs screaming, and pull him free. He runs without thanking you. Good. Gratitude is a luxury he can't afford. Neither can you, but you're beyond affording anything now. You find your ending where you began, by the water pump on Broad Street, the same pump that likely killed Sarah with cholera, that Dr. Snow proved was poisoned, but that still stands because the authorities decided the danger had passed. You sit on its base, coughing, your life into a rag already soaked with blood. The morning commuters pass without looking. Another dying child in London, ordinary as sunrise. A woman stops, something familiar in her walk, though she's aged decades in months. The phosphorus has taken half her face, but those green eyes, you know those eyes. Your mother, escaped or released from the workhouse, dying like you but still alive enough to recognize her son. She sits beside you, no words needed. Words are for people with futures. You just exist together. Two pieces of a family destroyed by a city that consumes its poor. She holds your hand as the final coughing fit takes you. The last thing you see is her face, ruined but loving. The last thing you feel is her touch, gentle despite everything. You die at 13, but you lived a lifetime in those years. You die poor, but rich in the knowledge that someone mourned you. You die in Whitechapel, but you die free. The Thames keeps flowing, carrying away the dead and the living alike. London keeps eating its children. But for a moment, a mother holds her son, and love exists even here, in the worst place in the empire. London forgets you immediately. The spot where you died is washed clean by afternoon rain. Your mother, too weak to arrange even a pauper's burial, watches as the body collectors add you to their cart like cordwood. She follows as far as her strength allows, then collapses in an alley where she'll be found tomorrow, another casualty of progress. The papers don't report your deaths. Why would they? You're not news, you're Tuesday. But the minister keeps your written pages. Years later, when social reformers finally force Parliament to see what everyone already knows, your words become part of the testimony. A boy named Thomas Whitmore, aged 13, who documented the ordinary Holocaust of Victorian poverty. Your story joins others, the matchgirls, the mudlarks, the purefinders, the crossing sweepers. Together you become impossible to ignore. The Broad Street pump is finally removed. The match factories are forced to stop using white phosphorus. The Thames is slowly cleaned. Child labour laws pass. The workhouses close. It takes decades, but change comes, built on the bones of children like you. You didn't live to see it, but you helped make it happen. Your death meant something, because you insisted on being counted. In a city that tried to erase you, you left a mark. Small, perhaps. Faint. But indelible. Thomas Whitmore existed. Thomas Whitmore mattered. Thomas Whitmore refused to disappear quietly into London's vast machinery of forgetting. And in that refusal, that stubborn insistence on being human in a system designed to make you less than human, you won. Not the game. The game was always rigged. But the only victory that mattered. You remained yourself until the end. You died as Thomas Whitmore, not as nobody. In Victorian London, that was revolution enough. And now, dear listener, as Thomas's story fades into history, let yourself sink deeper into your comfortable bed. Feel the softness of your pillow, the warmth of your blankets, the miracle of clean air filling your lungs without effort or fear. The horrors of Victorian London are far behind us now, preserved only in stories like this one. Your water is clean, your food is safe. Your children, if you have them, will never know the taste of sawdust bread or the weight of choosing between phosphorus poisoning and starvation. As you drift towards sleep, remember Thomas Whitmore, not with sadness, but with gratitude. Gratitude for the life you have, for the simple luxuries that would seem like impossible magic to him. Your heated room, your medicine cabinet, your reasonable expectation of tomorrow. Let the sounds of modern life fade away. No coughing from consumption, no crying from hunger, no death carts rattling over cobblestones. Just the gentle hum of a world where most children grow up, where poverty isn't a death sentence, where your biggest worry tonight might be what to have for breakfast. Close your eyes now. Take a deep breath of clean, safe air. You're far from Whitechapel's horrors, safe in a world that, while imperfect, no longer feeds its children to the machines of industry. Sleep well, in your warm bed, in your safe room, in a time when Thomas Whitmore's story is history, not prophecy. Sweet dreams. Hey there. Tonight, let me take you back to 1854, to the darkest corners of Victorian London. You're about to walk through streets where the Thames itself recoiled from the stench. where children aged 6 worked 14-hour days, and where a simple glass of water could kill you faster than any blade. Before we begin this journey through the Seven Dials slum, I want you to know that wherever you are right now, whether it's a cozy bedroom in New York, a flat in Tokyo, or anywhere else in our modern world, you're experiencing a luxury that would seem like pure magic to the souls we're about to meet. That clean pillow beneath your head, that would cost a Victorian slum dweller 3 days' wages. The tap water you might have on your nightstand. In 1854, that same innocent-looking liquid killed 10,000 Londoners in 3 months. So, dim the lights, settle into your comfortable bed, and let yourself drift as we descend into the cobblestone maze of Whitechapel, St. Giles, and Bethnal Green. You're about to meet Thomas Whitmore, a 12-year-old mudlark who survived what historians now call the worst urban living conditions in modern Western history. Through his eyes, you'll experience every putrid sunrise, every desperate scramble for bread, every terrifying night when the night soil men came to empty the overflowing cesspits that poisoned entire neighborhoods. Close your eyes now. Listen to my voice fade into the past.